Hi, it's Mark from Top Local Lead Generation. We're here with Mr. Bernie Pollock from Pollock Automotive. They're an award-winning shop in Vancouver, BC. How are you doing today, Bernie?
Doing well. Doing well.
We're going to talk about a pre-purchase inspection, which I know is something that you guys do a lot of. This is a particular one in a pretty fancy car, 2012 Audi A7. So are pre-purchase inspections only for the buyer?
No, let's have I'll just get a picture up of our car here that we're working on, just so you can see the vehicle. So no, they're not just for the buyer. They're actually pre-purchase inspections are a great thing to do for the seller as well. You know, like when you're selling a car, it's good to know what you're actually selling. Now, of course, it depends on whether this is important to you and if you're an honest person, but which I think most people are. So for the seller, it's great to know the condition of the vehicle that you're selling. And if any work needs to be done on the vehicle, at least you know ahead of time. You can either disclose that to the purchaser or you can have the work done. Then you know the condition of the vehicle. The other thing is, if you're selling a vehicle, and this is probably more applicable to older vehicles, but if you're selling a vehicle, someone goes and gets their own inspection, then comes back and says, hey, it needs these brakes and this is worn out and that. And if you know from your inspection that the vehicle's good, then you can argue back with them and say, hey, you know what, that's not true. We've just had this inspection done and this is the report. So at least it gives you an opportunity not to be hosed, so to speak, by a seller. So yeah, so for the seller, it's definitely an important thing to do. Now for the buyer, pre-purchase inspection is even more important, because once you buy a used car, you're generally stuck with that car. So I've lost my way here. You know, things like you can drive a car and you can get a pretty good feel for what the condition of the car is, but you know, the car could feel fine and your brakes could be a week away from needing $1,000 worth of work, or there could be some fairly serious fluid leaks under a vehicle that aren't dripping on the ground, but if you don't have it inspected and looked at, you're not going to know that until after you buy the car. So and once you buy it, as I said, you're generally stuck with it. I mean, some dealers will give you something back, but a private sale, you're basically stuck with that vehicle. The other thing, you know, when you do the pre-purchase inspection, then you can look at it and go, okay, this is a good vehicle to buy, or no, this didn't meet my needs. I've had a number of people say to me, hey, you know, they back away from the deal and go, that's the best money I've ever spent, because they weren't stuck with a car they didn't really want to have.
So what's involved in your pre-purchase inspection?
Well, let me show you. The best way is to show you, share with you a photo of our inspection report. And give me a second here. We'll just get this up and going. So you should see the inspection sheet now. Is that so? The inspection this inspection sheet is actually something we do not just for pre-purchase inspections, but also for comprehensive inspections, and depending on what kind of inspection we're doing on a vehicle, we'll use some parts of this inspection sheet. And this is about half of it. It's an extremely thorough 150-point inspection. There's a very lengthy road test. We look at pretty much everything on the vehicle from front to back. Pressure test the cooling system, make sure there's no hoses that are about to blow, test the battery and charging system to make sure that's all in good shape, and just inspect the brakes, take the wheels off, look at the tires, all the steering and suspension components. Everything is important and valuable, and things that you may not know yourself. So that's our inspection report in a nutshell.
So the featured vehicle here is a pretty new car. So tell us about the car and the inspection.
Yeah, well, it's yeah. So our featured vehicle, it's a 2012 Audi A7. We did this inspection actually for a selling dealer, you know, a dealer that we deal with who's very ethical. They want to make sure that the cars they're selling are in top condition. You know, having only 25,000 kilometers on the odometer and the vehicle only being 3 years old, we didn't expect to find much with it, and that was in fact the case. But there were actually a couple of things. There was a small oil leak at the back of the engine, potentially extremely expensive to fix. Unfortunately, the vehicle was still covered by a warranty, so they were able to take it back to Audi and get it fixed. It was also due for a service, and while we would normally do that kind of thing if they wanted, this was also covered by Audi's factory. They do several years of included maintenance, so that was also covered as well. The tires, you know, the brakes were in great shape. The tires were a little worn. and they'll probably replace the tires, but it gives a pretty good picture of the car, and at least they know what they're selling is an absolute top-notch condition. This Audi A7 is an awesome car. I'm just going to share a couple of photos of the under hood features. Excuse me. Technical difficulty, still getting this figured out. Yeah, so this is the view of the engine on the A7. It's a V6 supercharged engine. Beautiful looking engine, which is something you don't find nowadays too often. A lot of times you pop the engine cover out, the hood open on a car, and all you can see is a big plastic cover hiding all the little details. But this is a good looking engine. The car is also extremely fast. It went really nice to drive. Another feature, of course, of this car being being a luxury performance car, it's got pretty large brakes on it, and that's kind of a view of the brakes and wheels. Again, the brakes are in good shape. A lot of these things can be pretty expensive to fix on certain luxury cars, so it's good to know the condition of the brakes before you buy the car. So that's a bit about the Audi.
So any more thoughts about pre-purchase inspections?
Yeah, one last thing about pre-purchase inspections. I think it's really important as to who's doing the inspection and who's interpreting the actual information. I mean, someone can go do an inspection sheet. They can mark it's got this, it's got that. But really what's key is at the end of the day, it's important to interpret what's going on with the vehicle. Excuse me, got a bit of a cough here. For instance, on an older car, it might have a little bit of an oil seep, but is that is it a deal breaker, oil seep? And it's good to just know exactly what's going on, but what's worth doing and what's not. And that, a good experienced technician, someone you trust, is a good person to deal with, so you can make sure you negotiate the right deal. You don't sort of throw the baby out with the bathwater if it's got a little problem. And yeah, that's kind of it.
So we've been talking with Mr. Bernie Pollock. He's struggling a little bit with a bit of a cough, but he's given us a lot of great information on pre-purchase inspections. Having been burnt by buying cars, I think many of us will know probably an incredibly good service and very valuable. So if you want to get a hold of Pollock Automotive, you can reach them at their website, pollocautomotive.com. Or give them a call, 604-327-7112. Book your next service or your next pre-inspection. Thanks, Bernie.
Thanks, Mark. We'll talk to you again soon.